What's up guys, Asian here again with another theory crafting video, and today we're going to be exploring Divines versus Infused on your large pieces for your magicka DPS. So this is specific to magicka DPS. We're not going to be looking at stamina DPS for this video. That's going to be for a separate video, and like I said, this is only for large pieces, not small pieces. The small pieces, you're always going to want to have it in Divines. And that's just because you only get 40% of your maximum enchant effect on your small pieces compared to your large pieces. So you only get 351 resources. So Infused is going to have a much smaller impact on those resources compared to the full 868 that you get on a large piece. So your small pieces, your shoulder, feet, hands, and waist, those are always going to be Divines, is going to be your best in slot trait, not Infused. Now for large, there is an argument that Infused pretty much matches Divines pretty much blow for blow in terms of spell damage. And that's mainly because most builds now are using the Apprentice. The Apprentice has a base increase of 238. Golden Divines gives you a boost of 7.5%, which works out to be 17 additional spell damage. Take a look here. If we swap out Infused, it drops by, our spell damage does drop by 17%. Or 17, I should say. But Infused also gives you additional max magicka, and the higher your magicka pool is, the higher your spell damage is. It's kind of an invisible boost. It's not reflected on the tooltip, so it is an effective spell damage boost. So that actually works out to be 173 additional for every single large piece, which works out, if you divide it by 10, that's how much max magicka is. That's the ratio between max magicka and spell damage. That works out to be 17, so it's kind of which one is actually going to be better, Infused or Divines. So that's kind of the answer, the question we're going to be answering today. I've already done several parses already, so I'll be able to give you guys a fairly definitive answer, a fairly confident answer as to which one is actually going to be better for you. And you will see that we are on our magsorc. So there is a reason why we're on our magsorc, and that's because of our pets. Pets do not scale very well with spell damage, they scale with max magicka. So Infused versus Divines on a pet build is a very different question because of that pet, the way it scales, the way the damage scales on a pet. So we're going to be doing 4 parses today. We're going to be doing a non-pet build, Infused versus Divines, and that's going to be reflective of all magicka DPS except for, I suppose, the Warden, if you use the bear on the Warden. And then we're going to be doing on a pet build, Infused versus Divines, and that's going to reflect a pet sorc or a magicka warden that's using the bear ultimate as their pet. So that's kind of what we're looking at today. Everything's going to pretty much stay the same between each parse though. We are going to be using Necro instead of Julie for our pet parse. Sticking with 3-piece Moon Dancer, Asylum Lightning Imperfect, Asylum's Lightning Staff infused with a fire damage enchant, and then Nern, Maelstrom, Backbar Lightning with a weapon damage enchant. We're going to go ahead and get started with our parses. We have 4 of them to get through, so hopefully we will be able to speed that through and then give you guys an answer. Now I have heard that the spell damage boost from the Apprentice is affected by major sorcery and major or minor sorcery, while the spell damage boost that you get from your max magicka is not affected by those buffs. I am not 100% certain which one is true. I only just heard of it today, and I haven't really had time to really dig into it. But if that is the case, then Divines is always going to win out, just because of those buffs. If the max magicka boost is not affected by those buffs, then obviously Divines is going to win out because it's affected by those buffs. Yes, there we go. That is with the divines piece. Now we're gonna swap over. Where is it? Where are it? Alright, Trickin breaches. So we have our Infused Julie on now. Gonna get our ultimate up and do a parse again. Yeah, so this question was kind of stemmed based on an argument I saw in one of my guild chats. One of my trading guilds, they were arguing over which was actually going to be better, Infused versus Divines. One person believes that obviously Divines is better, one person thinks Infused is better because it gives you a bigger resource pool. So I kind of wanted to figure it out myself. And that's kind of where the spell damage boost from the apprentice gets the sorc buffs, sorcery buffs comes from. However, neither of them can provide any numbers or links to any videos comparing them, so that's kind of why I'm doing this today. Actually provide an answer once and for all to see who actually was right. We'll be comparing all of our parses at the end. So that is our infused parse. So now we're going to swap over to Necro. Going to be starting off with all the Vines Necropotence and then swap over to Infused. Let's get our ultimate back up. There we go. Now for a non-pet build, I feel like Infused versus Divines isn't really going to matter too much because non-pet builds, and most magicka DPS for that matter, tend to use Julianos, which is a crafted set, so regardless of whichever one is actually better, it's going to be easy to get the trait you want because it's just crafted. All you have to do is research the trait. I think it's going to be bigger for pet builds. The difference between Infused and Divines is fairly small. Then purchasing Infused Necropotence instead of Divines Necropotence could save you some money. Now, I am not a trader. I don't really play the market at all, so I don't know what the pricing difference actually is between Infused and Divines, but I'd imagine that Infused is going to be cheaper. So that is our Divines Necro Parse. Now we're going to go with our Infused Necropotence Parse. Desummon our pet so he doesn't attack while we build ultimate. And go ahead and do our final parse, compare them combat metrics, add them to our spreadsheet, and compare averages and standard deviations. There we go. So if you are going to be doing several parses, if you guys are testing stuff on the PTS on a pet sorc, make sure to desummon your pet every time you build ultimate, and don't resummon it until you are out of combat with whatever dummy you're using to build ultimate, because otherwise when you summon your pet, it's just going to go attack that dummy that you used to build ultimate, and then that's really annoying because then you have to either command it or desummon it. And if you command it to not attack the dummy, next time you summon it, it actually will remember that and not attack the dummy that you are going to be parsing on. So for those of you guys who practice or do theory crafting on pet sorcs, something to keep in mind. So that is our Infused parse. So looking at our combat metrics now, this is the Infused Necro parse. We got 35.8. Just add that in real quick. For our Divines parse, we got 34.5. So we can see that Infused does actually seem to pull ahead compared to Divines. So if we take a look at, where is it? Pet Pulse. Here's Pet Pulse, 2614 on the Infused compared to 2249. So we're gaining an extra 400 DPS on our Pet Pulse just from swapping from Divines to Infused. Well, that's a fairly large increase. And if you take a look at the other DPS figures, they're all pretty much more or less equal. 5.5, 4.9, 3.4, 5.3, 4.9, 3.6. So we can see we're not actually losing that much DPS compared to everything else. Got 29k for our crystal frags, only 18. How many procs did we get? 8 on this, 10 on that. So that would explain the difference in the crystal frags DPS. We just got more procs on our Infused, which might also explain the fairly large difference in DPS. If we got 2 extra procs here, I'm sure it'd be a little bit closer. Let's see, Mage's Wrath 2135, Mage's Wrath 2262. So we can see even with the Infused, we're not losing that much DPS from our other major abilities here. Like Haunting Curse 1981, 1988. So not that big of a difference. So we take a look at our non-pet. This one was our Infused parse, 34334, and our Divines parse, 35472. So if we go ahead and take a look now at our DPS between everything now, Liquid Lightning 44.7, 3.6, oops, 4.4 versus 3.6. So we lost a little bit on Liquid Lightning, but blockade stays about the same. Light attacks, we got 2.6 compared to 5.6 here, so we lost quite a bit on light attacks. That might just be due to weaving on my part. We got 71 hits compared to 70, so no, it wasn't really a weaving thing. Light attacks, we're just doing more DPS here. Crit chance 50. Actually, I see what it is. Our crit percentage for our light attacks was actually on the low end. Actually, our crits in general on this parse is actually on the low end. Got 45% of our hits per crits compared to our actual crit, which was 52.3. 42 compared to 51.9, so it's actually not that bad, actually. Alright. So that's kind of it for looking at our combat metrics parses, kind of taking it apart. Haunting Curse was 2.2. 2.2. How many Crystal Frag procs did we get? We got 11 here. Got 10 here. So they're going to be different just because different proc percentages. 2.4 Mage's Wrath. 3.2. So Mage's Wrath was different. I think I executed later on this parse compared to the other ones. Let's see, 11, 15. Yeah, so I did execute a little bit later on that, so that might explain that difference there. But we can see that there is some differences here between our two parses here that could be just RNG. That's kind of why we do multiple parses, to figure out, to get an average, because there are RNG things like crit chances and things like that that we want to take into consideration. So speaking of our different parses, here they are. We have 24 parses, 6 across each of our 4 categories here. This is non-pet, infused, non-pet divines, pet, infused, pet divines. These are our averages, and these are our standard deviations. And this is the percentage difference between each one. So we can see here that infused compared to divines, we're looking at about a 1.2% difference. Now there could be some RNG involved in this. I know this parse, and let me see, the 34k parses there, where I did have lower crit chance, but I mean it should average out in the end just because we're doing so many different parses. And you can see here that we can pull pretty good numbers on a infused parse. So do bear that in mind. This percentage difference is actually probably going to be lower than 1%. It's just that we had some bad luck with a couple of parses here. Kind of the same deal here. You can see we have a 35-1, but nothing really under 35 under divines. So we're pulling 35.5 compared to 35.1, so it's 400 DPS difference. So at least for non-pet builds, and this is just for all magicka DPS that don't use pets, so basically everything except magicka wardens that use the bear ultimate. Divines looks like it's going to win out. But if we take a look at the pet build, you can see that infused is beating out divines by about 300 DPS. The percentage difference is 0.8, so we're getting 0.8% increase in DPS compared to with infused compared to divines. And if we also see that it's a much lower spread compared to divines, we might have a couple of bad parses here just due to bad RNG again. We did have a 36.8k parse on our divines pet build, so clearly there is some RNG involved, and some human error as well. So that's why we do multiple parses, get that average, figure out, try to iron out all those human errors and things like that, RNG. So for a pet build and for a magicka warden, using a bear ultimate, yes, infused necro is probably gonna be a little bit better than divines. If you do want to push that extra 200, 300 extra DPS out of your build. But for a non-pet build and for all other magicka classes, divines looks like to be the trait of choice. Infused is not a bad choice at all. It's not that far behind divines. But if you are looking to push that extra bit of DPS out, divines is gonna do that for you on a non-pet build. So that's it for this video. Hope you found it informative. I will be doing one for stamina, so be on the lookout for that, and I'll see you guys in the next dungeon.